All right, man, peace. So, NBA great LeBron James had a rather ignominious performance on Christmas Day against the equally great Kevin Durant. And I use that term equally great because it seems to me as if Kevin Durant has laid down his stake as the new best player in the NBA. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
The Warriors beat the Cavs by 7 yesterday in their first matchup since the NBA Finals. LeBron finished with 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists, but he also had 7 turnovers, including a big one with over a minute left in the fourth, with the Cavs down by 3. Then with under 30 seconds left, Kevin Durant blocked LeBron's shot as he drove to the basket. No foul was called, and the Warriors got the win.
Look, let me say this. I thought that the first drive was more of a foul than that one. I thought on the second drive that KD made more contact with the ball than he did with LeBron's body. It's in Golden State. Kevin Durant is of equal stature as LeBron James. And as anyone who's been watching the NBA for a long period of time knows, most of these high-profile regular season games are going to be refereed as if they're playoff games. The thing is that LeBron James not only has a persecution complex because of how he feels he's being refereed, but also, once again, when you have a mano-a-mano matchup, like a LeBron James versus a Kevin Durant, down the stretch of a big game that's nationally televised on Christmas, they are going to swallow their whistles. Bottom line. And I think that LeBron's ego was as hurt or even more hurt than he may have claimed to have been due to the so-called foul that Kevin Durant supposedly levied on him. Once again, I thought that the first drive was much more of a foul than this one right here.
Shannon, what did yesterday's game prove?
It proved that if LeBron James is not historically great, regardless who's playing for the Warriors, they can't win.
No, really what it's proved is that Kevin Durant, as far as a basketball player is concerned, is at his peak right now. He's at his overall peak as a basketball player, and there are numerous reasons for that. Number one, due to his experience. He's been through everything that anyone could go through as far as being an NBA player. His confidence is at a sky high, and he's playing in the perfect system. And once again, anyone who's watched the NBA over a long period of time, we've seen this before. It's like Michael Jordan circa 1992 or, Shaq circa 2000. You know when you're watching someone who's at the peak of their powers. You can see it. You can feel it when you're watching it. Dwayne Wade, 2006. LeBron, circa 2013. Right now, KD in 2017. He's at the peak of his powers.
We've seen LeBron last year in the NBA Finals average a triple-double. 33 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists.
Shannon and many other super LeBron James fans, they keep holding on to that. And once again, brothers, this is why I compare LeBron more to a Wilt Chamberlain than a Michael Jordan. You have certain players who were stat accumulators. To me, LeBron James is the Wilt Chamberlain of his era. Just physically supreme over everyone else and putting up astronomical numbers. I give him that much credit. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of it, a lot of the idiosyncratic nature of basketball, that's where LeBron comes up short. And once again, that's where he's lacking in comparison to somebody like Larry Bird. He just doesn't have that little je ne sais quoi that Larry Bird had. Now, if you give LeBron a little help, like they gave him in 2016 against Golden State, then yeah, he can get the job done. LeBron's probably the greatest front-running NBA player of all time. Like, if you give LeBron that front-running spirit, oh man, he's gonna look unbelievable. But when you put him in that grit and grind, it's gonna be a totally different story. And in 2016, LeBron knew that he was a bowling ball, and the players on Golden State, they were nothing but a bunch of pins. He was gonna run all over them. They had no sense of physicality down low. The refs were giving Cleveland every call. And then he had that assassin, Kyrie Irving, running alongside of him. Once they got Golden State's rhythm and they got Golden State on their heels, there was no chance. There was just way too many things that were falling into place for Cleveland. But when you get LeBron on his heels, that's when you see that really timid nature of his come out.
Yes, they losing 5. 2 years before that, we saw him average 35, 13, and 8, and they lose in 6. So we know he has to be historically great.
No, what we know once again is that he's the Wilt Chamberlain and also the Jerry West of his era. Remember, Jerry West wasn't able to run to different teams, so instead of him being 3-5 in the finals, he was 1-8. And he also put up legendary classic numbers in the finals. Go look up Jerry West's finals numbers. I mean, he had finals where he was averaging 37, 38 points a game. He still lost.
Great. The Cavaliers shot yesterday on Christmas 25% from the 2-point range. That's the lowest field goal percentage in the last 5 years of any NBA team. If I told you that, Skip Bayless, would you have believed they would have won?
No, what we believe is that Golden State is one of the great teams in NBA history. When you have a team that plays offensively at that level and then defensively at that level, they're one of the great teams in NBA history. And people need to spend more time understanding what they're watching in regards to Golden State. They're watching a historically great team.
Yeah, I would. If you told me they hit 15 threes to just 10.
The lowest from 2-point range in 5 years.
They out-rebounded the Warriors. They had fewer turnovers than the Warriors. They outshot them from the free throw line. I think all that cancels out your little stat.
I don't think so, Skip. I don't really 15. Oh, Cavaliers had 14 turnovers. Golden State had 15. That was a really big, that was a big difference.
They did.
Stop it, Skip.
The problem is,
Stop it, Skip.
LeBron James had 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter and 7 total. 4 in the fourth quarter. That will lose a game.
All it proved to me is that LeBron needs to be historically great in order for them to have a chance.
Not just historically great, he also has to get assistance from Adam Silver and the refs, which is what he got in 2016. These are just facts. People can get mad at that all they want. He needs assistance. From the time that Draymond Green decided that he was going to lash out at LeBron when LeBron stood over him, everything in that series went their way. And that's what he would need in order to beat Golden State, because Golden State is just a better team than they were back in 2016. A much better team. So, Isaiah Thomas, the 5'7" shot jacker, is not going to save LeBron. Period.
Both teams. The Warriors are playing without a 2-time MVP at point guard and Steph Curry. Isaiah Thomas, who's an all-star, has yet to play for the Cavaliers. So all this proves that when LeBron is not great, especially going up against a team like this, they don't win. He has to be great. He was not great. He was far from it. LeBron will be the first to tell you he must play better. He will play better. I got no problem with that. Hey, even an alley cat will find a whole chicken in the trash every once in a while. You think?
That's what I told Braun last night. You know, baby, you can't win them all. I mean, shit. It's Christmas. The season for giving. You gave the ball away 7 times. It happened. Shit.
You think LeBron's going to get 30 and 15 every night?
Did you just call Kevin Durant an alley cat?
Hell no. I was talking about you. You the damn alley cat. Every time you walk on set, it smell like pussy.
That what you just said?
All I'm saying is LeBron had a bad day. That happens.
Do you understand the words that's coming out of my mouth? I'm speaking English, ain't I? I said nothing about Kevin Durant. I said alley cat. Like I said, I'm talking about you.
Alley cat doesn't always find scraps. Even Wolfgang Puck, Emerald Lagasse will burn something and dump it in the trash. So the alley cat will come along and find a nice burnt pot roast. He don't always get fish bones like you see on the cartoon, Skip Bayless. That's what I was saying. See, why you do that?
You always starting shit. You know damn well I was talking about you. When I want to get your little scary ass out here on the set, I just put some cat food out here for you. You know, I say, here, pussy, pussy, pussy. And then you come on out here so you can get your ass whooped every day. You know what happened. You know why I said alley cat, Skip Bayless. Stop fucking around.
You know what? He did it yesterday, Joy. I introduced him to my son. I said, Skip, this is my son, Kiari. He said, how you doing? He says, I'm Winton. His name is Winton Kiari Sharp.
Well, actually, his name is Winton Kiari LaShannon James Sharp III. Okay? That's his real full name, if we won't get technical.
Everybody called him Key. He likes to be called Winton. Guess who wins out on that, Joy? But anyway,
Why don't you call him what he wants to be called?
I gave him a name. I'm going to call him Kiara. But anyway, Skip says, okay, you say Kiara, he says Winter. Which is it? I say, Skip, this isn't a debate.
His daddy called him Kiari, I'm gonna call him Kiari.
Exactly.
No, I said, what do you want to be called? He's a grown man.
Hey, what did he say?
He said,
What did he say?
Winton.
No, he did not. What did he
All right, Lamar.
No, what did he say, Skip?
Good for you, Joy Taylor. Call him out. Shannon Sharp is one of these guys who gets on TV talking about LeVar Ball's all controlling, and now you see how he's conducting himself. You know, it's easy for everyone to act like they're the most freedom-giving, magnanimous parent until the spotlight is on them. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's in the nature of a real parent to be protective and, you know, to try to exert some form of influence over the child. Even something as petty as calling a child a name that they may not want to be called by, even when they're an adult, because for some parents in their mind, you know, that's a form of exerting control and authority over the child, is to still call them by a name that they don't want to be called by. So as Joy Taylor very astutely noted, there's not much difference between Shannon and LeVar in regards to that situation.
Are you LeVar?
No, what did he say, Skip?
I think he said Win.
No, you think he said.
I think he said Win.
He said my.
He whispered to me.
Okay.
Can we get back on? Somebody's trying to change this.
Yes.
I ain't trying to change this.
Somebody doesn't love the topic.
I love it.
I love the topic. Every time we talk about my baby, I love it. You know, you try and change the topic from how old your ass is.
So, Joy, back to your question. It's a good question. What did yesterday prove? It's about what Kevin Durant keeps proving and not getting enough credit for it. And look, full disclosure, I have had many a battle with Kevin Durant. There are times he has alienated me, and it's been hard for me to come back around to him. But I got to tell you, what Kevin Durant keeps pulling off with Golden State after the world wrote him off and condemned him, and I get it, you know, that he left Russell Westbrook and
He didn't leave no damn Russell Westbrook. People act like they were married or something. All Kevin Durant did was exert his right as a free agent. He decided that he was going to leave Oklahoma City. At the end of the day, that was a basketball equivalent of what I tell you brothers about the difference between a concubine and a wife. A great wife is always going to be above a great concubine. Russell Westbrook, proverbially speaking, or Russell Westbrook as I prefer to call him, he's like a great concubine. He's never going to be wife material. And that's why I tell you, brothers, watching him play is like watching a great action movie. You'll be entertained, but that movie's not going to win any Oscars, man. Kevin Durant decided that he wanted to go work with Martin Scorsese so that he could win an Oscar. That's all that was really about. And I don't begrudge him for that. He was a free agent, period. LeBron James did something similar, even though he denies it, talking about that team wasn't ready-made. Yeah, but come on, you knew what that team was going to become when you have two of the top players at their position in the NBA. At the time that he went to Miami, you could argue that Dwayne Wade was the number one shooting guard in the league. I'm sure that the Kobe Bryant fans will get upset. But this was 2010, the 2010-2011 season. Kobe Bryant was broken down. You could argue that Chris Bosh was the best stretch four in the NBA. So he knew what that team was going to become. Many players have done that in the free agency era. I have no problem with what KD did. I've never had a problem with it. The only problem that I have with him is some of his, sissified emotional rants and his two-dimensional thinking. But that's a whole other topic.
In a team that had that Golden State juggernaut down 3-1. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then on July 4th of 2 years ago, the bombshell dropped. It wasn't a bombshell to me because I knew what was coming. I've been saying it for 2 years. He can't take Russell Westbrook. He does not think that together they can ever break through and win a championship.
And let me say this. If the Oklahoma City Thunder don't win the championship this year, Paul George and Carmelo Anthony are going to leave Russell Westbrook. Okay? Russell Westbrook's one of those guys that it's not worth playing with him if you're not going to win a championship because it's the Russell Westbrook show. So the same way that stars didn't want to come play with Allen Iverson, stars are not going to want to come play with Russell Westbrook willingly. They're just not. Now, if Sam Presti can utilize his magic and bring about some type of trade to force stars to come there, then that's a whole different story. But you're not going to see any top-level players willingly sign with the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and he finally said, I'm in my 10th year. I just want a ring. I might want 3 or 4 rings, so I'm going to go join forces with that group.
Yeah.
Because they got all kinds of stars, and they play basketball the way I like to play basketball, which is share it, move it.
Got no problem with
Okay?
the decision he made.
Well, do you know how many people did?
Yes.
Okay, do you know how many people had problems with him even playing in the finals last year? Like it was unfair, right?
Yeah.
And what did he do? Did he not just stare right through all that pressure and just he took over the finals? He was the finals MVP.
But Skip,
There was no pressure because of the framework of that team, and I've delved into this before. That team, Golden State, is perfect for him. They're literally perfect for him. He'd be a fool to leave, especially on some emotional bullshit of going back to OKC and, trying to pull a LeBron. He'd be dumb to leave. Now, I could possibly see him leaving Golden State and going to play with the Wizards more than I ever could him going back to OKC and going back to that Westbrook dynamic. Like, I think that he's burned too many bridges there for him to even think about doing something like that. But the Golden State situation is beyond perfect for him. When you have a lead player in a Steph Curry who arguably is as impactful as he is, and some people may grimace at that, but Steph Curry at the end of the day was a 2-time MVP before Kevin Durant got there and a 1-time champion. And that's the bottom line of it. People can try to go back and forth. Well, KD brings more defensively. He's longer. He's this, he's that. Look, here's what I know. I know that Golden State was in 2 finals before KD ever got there. And Stephen Curry was a back-to-back MVP and the first unanimous MVP. These are facts. So Kevin Durant knows that he can vacillate between being the lead guy and a supplementary piece on that team. That everything is not on him. When he was with OKC, everything was going to be on him because he knew that Westbrook was going to make a series of bad decisions down the stretch of close games, and then he would still get all the blame anyway because people viewed him as the better player, which he was, but he did not control the flow of the offense because he didn't have the ball in his hands. So he basically was at the mercy of Russell Westbrook. So there were just way too many reasons why he made that decision, and it was the correct decision. And he fits in there perfectly because of the largesse of Steph Curry, who was extremely generous and literally rolled the red carpet out to him to become the new alpha on the team, or the intermittent alpha in regards to whoever's hot that night. And then the only extremely extroverted personality that you have on the team in regards to domineering is concerned is Draymond. And Draymond is a role player. He's a Hall of Fame level role player, but he's still a role player nonetheless. So you don't have that same dynamic with Westbrook, where Westbrook is dominating the ball and he has that alpha male personality, and you're basically at his mercy.
Yeah, you and other people make it seem like that he had superpowers at OKC, and then once he went to Golden State, he lost them. He was still 7 feet tall. He still could go get 30.
Okay,
He could still do all those things.
Do you know how much pressure per square inch was on his body going into the finals last year? Everybody wanted him to fail. Didn't 90% of the world want to see him fall on his face in the finals?
The pressure is coming up in D.C. with a single mom like he did
Okay,
in Maryland.
I got it, but in basketball.
That is
Just
no
in
pressure.
basketball.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Skip, he has one of the highest scoring averages in NBA history.
Agreed. And even in a one-on-one offensive scheme that OKC was running, he still had multiple years of shooting over 50%. So this is a player who's shooting over 50% going one-on-one or one-on-two, which predominantly he was going while in OKC. This is why once he came to Golden State, now you see he's a well over 50% shooter. Kevin Durant is just an extremely gifted overall basketball player, both offensively and defensively. And to be quite frank with you, right now, he's probably in my top 20 all time, creeping up on top 15, but most likely definitely top 20. If he wins it again this year and he wins another Finals MVP, he'd be creeping up on top 15.
He's 7 feet tall, Skip. Scoring.
Do I need to remind you what happened to LeBron when he joined forces with the Heat and they went to their first finals together? Do I need to remind you how much pressure he felt?
But
Yeah, but that's a whole different makeup. that LeBron has mentally from a Kevin Durant. And what I mean by that is I'm not necessarily talking about off the court, but on the court. When LeBron James starts missing his shots, you can see that there's a visible change in his demeanor. Kevin Durant doesn't have that. Kevin Durant's going to keep shooting. So on the court, he's much more aggressive offensively than LeBron is, independent of the results of whether or not he's making his shots. He has a much higher belief in his offensive game than LeBron has, because his game is more skill oriented. LeBron's is power oriented. Now, for a power player, LeBron is probably the most skillful power player to ever play in the NBA, but he's still a power player. Durant is a skill player. So skill players are far less likely to lose their confidence because they're having an off shooting night, because they figure, it's going to start falling. I've worked too much on my footwork. I've worked too much on my finishing with the left hand, the right hand, so on and so forth. LeBron is, he's like that big ogre that's scared of a mouse, As soon as something comes into his periphery that he feels like could alter his rhythm, he just gets totally thrown off.
Skip, everybody's different. LeBron James has had pressure since he's coming because he was much heralded. Even though we knew Kevin Durant, he went to 1 year of Texas. Skip, he had one. Okay, if that's the case, what about when Kevin Durant, the 3-1 lead? Did you see what he did in games 5, 6, and 7?
Well, he played very, very poorly in game 6. But what happened in that series, a lot of people, they really overrate Golden State being down 3-1, because I don't think Golden State took them seriously until they got down 3-1. I believe, if you remember, Golden State blew, I believe it was game 1. Then they won game 2 where they played hard. And then they went to OKC in game 3 and 4 and thought that they could just give a regular effort and win a game there. And that just was not going to happen. And let me say this, with the way that OKC is playing this year, Golden State is going to have to take them seriously, or they could find themselves in a very precarious situation in a playoff series with that team, because that team is not going to out-execute you down the stretch. But from a physical perspective, that team can match up with Golden State physically. Mentally and execution-wise is where Golden State's going to have to be on point. But that's what happened with that series in 2016. Golden State got down 3-1, and they said, okay, we gotta bite down.
Okay,
which one?
When they lost to Golden State, when they were up.
I got it. Both he and Russ were terrible.
Okay.
They sort of joined forces to be terrible. That's what they were. So the point is, I didn't see coming what I saw in the finals, and I don't think you did either.
There's no question in my mind. He always plays well. He averages probably 30 against LeBron. Now, LeBron teams normally win, but Kevin Durant go get his.
Do you remember that one playoff round against Memphis when he lost Russ to the knee injury?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
Patrick Beverley injury? And, man, you want to talk about coming up small against the Grizzlies, because they were in position to win that series, and he got smaller and smaller. I used to have all the clutch numbers, but he was really awful.
And you know what? That was probably his worst moment in the playoffs since he's risen to prominence. And he definitely shrunk in that series. But once again, that team was totally Kevin-centric. Everything was based around him. And when you get to the playoffs and you're facing a team like Memphis, and they have a chance to game plan for you, they're not going to let you get off. And it doesn't matter who you are. If that was LeBron by himself, they would have lost to Memphis. That series would have looked very similar to how LeBron looked in 2014 against the Spurs. When you have a very physical team, remember that team had Tony Allen and Zach Randolph and those guys. Once they have a chance to zone in on you and they know that you're really the only guy they have to worry about, they're going to take you out of the game. Period. And when I say take you out of the game, for a great player like Durant, that means 10 for 28, 11 for 26. He's still going to get his because he's going to get so many opportunities. But they're not going to let you totally dominate them.
In the clutch against the Grizzlies.
Well, that was most impressive about KD in the finals, because every run that the Cavs would try to make, Kevin Durant would wave everybody off and says, I got this. And even in game 5, when the Cavs got within 3, JR got hot and couldn't miss from 3, he's like, hey, come see me over here.
Well, that's easy to do. It's easy for Kevin Durant to get on the left side of the 3-point line, his favorite spot on the court, and spread everybody out and say, "I got this." When you got Steph Curry, on the other wing, and Klay Thompson in the corner, like, come on, who the hell could double? You can't double off those guys. So you got Kevin Durant, a 7-footer with guard skills, going 1-on-1. Once again, that's why he went there. He couldn't do that in OKC.
No, come see me. And LeBron was up in it. And Kevin Durant could just ride when you're that tall, Skip, and you shooting the ball.
I get that, but you still got to do it.
Yes.
You still got to go through the basket. You got to do it under pressure with the world watching and the world rooting against you.
If you watched him in the first 2 games, you could see this was a different Kevin Durant than we had ever seen before.
Well, you could definitely tell that he was focused and that he was there to handle his business. And I was happy for the brother that he did that. Now, unfortunately, after Game 5, we had to watch him get emasculated by his mother on national TV. But that's a whole other topic for another day in regards to the liberal black mother. That's a major problem. But that's up to the so-called black man to handle that issue. We've seen the events that have come to the forefront in regards to Miss Annie Apple and her hijinks. Doesn't surprise me at all, but I'll be covering that in another video. But once again, that's up to the so-called black man. As I've stated to you brothers ad infinitum, the liberal woman is under perpetual probation. Right? Period. The woman, period, is under perpetual probation.
And then in Game 3, when he hit that shot, it was like, okay, this is my time. Now,
and what did he say recently? I think he told, was it Vanity Fair or one of the magazines, that he felt like the torch got passed as he hit that shot.
Well, LeBron, put it like this at KD. LeBron ain't going to pass you the torch. If you get the torch, you're going to have to take it.
Well, I think that's pretty much what that means, Shannon. Okay? When he said that LeBron passed him the torch, do you think that he meant that LeBron came into the Golden State locker room after the game and said, "It's your league now"? Of course not.
Well, I think he's taking it. And yesterday was a big deal to Kevin Durant. And remember, he had to listen all last year to, remember, he's hurt, and Steph took over, and they looked, I kept saying sitting right here. But they look a little better now with just Steph.
But it's the...
I agree, and if I remember correctly, I believe that they were undefeated without Kevin Durant. If I remember correctly, one of you brothers can correct me on that, but I believe that they went something like 14-0.
It's the nucleus is still in place, though, Skip. That's why he wanted to join, because they're much more than Steph Curry. They're much more than Draymond. They're much more than Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
They play, like you mentioned, they play basketball the right way, so they're much greater than one individual.
Well, they play basketball the right way for them. According to their skill set, they play the right brand of basketball for them, and they've maxed out on the style of basketball and the productivity that they could generate according to their respective skill sets. If you were to get Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green together and create a program for basketball success for them, you couldn't have found anything better than what Steve Kerr has been able to implement. Of course, with the inspiration of a lot of the tenets that Mark Jackson brought in, of course. But Steve Kerr has been able to take it to a whole other level.
And so if one piece gets taken out, if Draymond is out of the lineup, they don't miss a beat. If Klay is out of the lineup, they don't miss a beat.
Okay, but at some point, when you lose enough star power, you're going to miss a beat. They had to start Jordan Bell and Patrick McCaw yesterday and play them high minutes. That's not who they used to be. They don't have Steph Curry. And the two big guys didn't play at all yesterday.
So, and even though you don't have Steph Curry, who's a top 5 NBA player, you got Kevin Durant, who I believe is the second best player in the NBA, and you still got 2 top 20 NBA players.
Look, I stated this a while ago. Kevin Durant, if he's not number 1, and I will still give it to LeBron right now, for now, he's 1A. And I believe that Steph Curry is probably number 2 or 1B. I do believe that the difference between Steph Curry and Kevin Durant is just as slim as the difference between LeBron James and Kevin Durant. I truly believe that, just looking at impact and what Steph Curry has been able to accomplish the previous 2 years before Kevin Durant got there, I think that he deserves that much respect.
And Draymond and Klay Thompson. So, Skip, It's not like the cupboard is bare.
Okay, but in Oklahoma City, and I said this many times on national TV, I questioned whether Kevin Durant wanted to play defense. He definitely wanted to play offense, and he wanted to pull off big stat numbers and big, where he'd shoot, 50, 90, 40?
50, 40, 90.
Yes, that was very important for him, and I don't blame him for that. When you shoot 50, 40, 90, that's more about proficiency than cumulative stats. So I don't really have a problem with that. I think that to me is much more conducive to success than how many triple doubles you get, which to me is more about usage rate than proficiency.
50, yeah. And he did it because he can really shoot it for being 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
But can he play defense? He leads so far, he leads the NBA in block shots.
He's the defensive player of the year so far.
Yesterday, he blocked 5 shots. Was the 5th one a foul? Yeah, I'll give you that. It was a foul. It was probably like 3 fouls in one. But the point was, he got a 5th block.
Yeah.
He leads the league, and through this stretch, now through 9 games, he's averaging 30 and 9, almost 10. Let's give it 10.
Yeah.
30, 10, and 6 assists. That's big. That's MVP quality.
This is the reason why in OKC, Skip, they had Serge Ibaka. He was their rim protector. So Kevin Durant felt he needed his scoring was more needed. Now they have no rim protector except him. He will try and protect the rim. Now he's going to get dunked on, and that's a part of it.
I absolutely agree. Once you take on that persona of I'm going to be the rim protector, you're going to get dunked on. That's why Alonzo Mourning and Patrick Ewing and those guys, they've been the most dunked on of anyone because they were not scared to protect the rim. You look back at Patrick Ewing, he was dunked on literally by every prominent player in the late 80s and 90s. Multiple times. Jordan caught him at least 3 times. I saw one the other day where Karl Malone dunked on him. I mean, I was like, damn. Everybody caught Patrick, and Alonzo Mourning as well. But Kevin Durant is also going to get caught a lot of times now because he has decided to take on the persona of the rim protector. And kudos to him.
That's a casualty of what you're trying to do.
I don't see it as much anymore.
Well, you saw
he plays strong.
Well, Julius Randle got him in one game, and then Larry Nance. Yeah, so, hey, it's going to happen, Skip, if you try to block shots. But what he's gotten really good at, Skip, because he's so long, you see he's guarding a guy, and you pull up to think he's about to shoot an uncontested layup, a jump shot, and Kevin Durant out of nowhere is like... Whoosh.
Absolutely. Very, very good at coming up and blocking jump shooters from behind. Jordan also was great at that. A lot of those weak side blocks, those help defender blocks, he's excellent at that.
You're like, where did he come from? Because he's like 20 feet tall. And so he's blocking. I mean, he's where you are, and he's blocking D Wade shot, who's shooting the ball 4 feet to his left.
Okay, but I think the torch has been passed. I saw it again yesterday. Well,
I think that for Kevin to really make it official, he has to win it again this year in dominant fashion. If they can win it again this year, particularly over Cleveland in dominant fashion, if it's another sweep or 5-game series, then yes. I think that the torch will have been passed because I see slippage in LeBron physically. I see slippage in him physically. He's not able to beat men off the dribble one-on-one like he could at one time. Now it's more bully ball, meaning he must lower his shoulder and bump guys away more. That's why to me it's laughable that he's always talking about how he doesn't get calls. He should be happy that he doesn't get called for more charging. That's why he can sit there or stand there and boldly say, well, when I come down the lane, guys are going to get out the way. Well, what really are you saying? You're saying that you're going to get away with a charge.
Well, do you remember, Joy remembers, the first finals LeBron broke through and won against the Baby Thunder?
Why the baby?
Because they...
We all know what Skip means by the Baby Thunder. That Thunder team in 2012, they were not mentally equipped for the Miami Heat, and the Miami Heat really lucked out drawing them in the finals because had they played the Spurs, they would have lost to the Spurs in 2012. The matchup between the Thunder and the Heat was very exciting going into it, but after LeBron got that gift foul call in Game 2, or I should say when he was able to get a non-call in Game 2 that would have really gotten them behind the 8 ball, they most likely would have went down 0-2 to go back to Miami. And they may have still won all 3 games in Miami, but it was very, very tough for teams to win in OKC. They had a great home court advantage, and once they lost that home court advantage, you could see they were not the same because they never really ran a half-court offense. Scott Brooks, I don't know what type of system he runs, but it certainly does not seem conducive to execution in a half-court set. And in big games, in the finals and in the NBA playoffs, the difference oftentimes is who can execute in the half court offensively and defensively. So that's why Skip calls them the Baby Thunder. I mean, it's 5 years later, and Westbrook is still a nutcase. I remember he had one game when Magic Johnson called it the worst game he ever saw a point guard play. And I think that was the game he scored 40-something. So, no, they were nowhere near ready. And then, of course, you had the nut job hardhead on the team who disappeared as usual in a big spot. So, but he's a whole other topic. Something's going on with him. Something is wrong with James Hardhead.
They've been there before, and they somehow made a bunch of threes, and they got past the Spurs. They're wait a second, we're in the finals. How do we do this?
Yeah, this is how it works. Everybody is a first time for something.
That's very true. But oftentimes, when someone does something for the first time, it will reveal a lot about their character or about their inner workings. Because when someone has never done something before, you get to see how they respond under stress. You get to see how well they adapt. These are ways that you learn about people. It's like when you come across someone who's been doing something for 10 years and they're very comfortable. They've been acclimated to it. They can give off an aura of confidence and ease and expertise. But if you were to catch them when they were being trained in it, or the first time that they tried to do it, you might see sweat on their forehead. You might see them jittering. You might see nervousness. In a basketball setting, that leads to poor execution. And that's just a major difference. If you watch Jordan in his first finals in 91, he was so aggressive and so authoritative. Even though they lost game one, he was great in that game. He just missed a shot that could have tied it down the stretch. But the other 4 games after that, he was equally as dominant, and he executed down the stretch of the games. When you watch LeBron in 07 or 2011, he was horrific. So this showed you a lot about him. In 2012, Kevin Durant was very, very good in those finals. But Hardhead and Westbrook were terrible, which were signs of things to come from them in clutch moments.
That's how it works. You're not born into the finals. You got to work your way. So everybody is a first time. LeBron went to the finals for the first time. The Spurs, the Lakers, the Celtics. Stop doing that.
You remember James Harden disappearing in those?
Thank you, sir.
Well, it was only 5 games.
And he was the 6th man of the year. See, why you do that?
You remember Russell Westbrook?
Yes, he's always been great in the regular season, Shannon. I'm tired of hearing about James Harden in the regular season. I'm tired of hearing about all the things that he's able to do in the regular season. That's why I told you guys, I believe that as of right now, he's a regular season MVP. But until he shows me something, I'm not impressed, man. Until Harden shows me some diversity in his mental game, some maturity in his execution in clutch moments, I'm not impressed by any more regular season accolades from him, man. I'm just not. I need to see him throughout this regular season and then get to the playoffs and show me that he can execute, that he can make proper decisions in proper moments. That's called tact. And he just doesn't have it, man. Sorry.
Westbrook disappearing in those games? I do.
Well, he had a 44-8.
Do you remember him?
Doesn't matter, Shannon. Doesn't matter. Shannon's all about numbers. That shows you that he has trouble understanding the game. He tries to justify everything with just numbers. And, don't get me wrong, sports, there's definitely a numbers element to sports. There's no doubt about that, because numbers can oftentimes denote productivity. But there's a game within the game that you have to watch and that you have to check for. Because certain types of players will use numbers to try to hide the fact that they're not playing winning basketball.
Remember him in the first half in the game 3?
I want to know why you do that, though, Skip. You see what you did there? Joy, you saw what he did, Joy. You saw it, too. Now, LeBron James,
Joy's just trying to keep her damn job. She ain't thinking about what Skip is doing.
If he won the NBA Finals, the first thing you say, it was against the Baby Thunder.
Well, it was. He just dominated.
There wasn't no babies.
You know what? He psychologically...
There wasn't no babies. There was only one baby in that finals. That's my man, LeBron Shannon James.
logically own Kevin Durant. Remember, they'd worked out together and played.
They still do.
Oh, I don't think they do.
They were just they were just in New York. Remember when LeBron flew up to NYC for the day, and he and KD go
See
ahead.
what Kevin Durant did to him in the fourth quarter yesterday? He said, "I want LeBron."
I agree, and I guarantee they're not sitting back working on moves together anymore. They might have got some run in the off season, but they're not working on moves together anymore. They're not trying to record rap songs anymore. They're rivals now, very much akin to the Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas dynamic. I don't think that there will ever be as much vitriol between the two of them as there was at one time between Magic and Isaiah Thomas. But at the same time, I don't think that LeBron James plans on coming down with HIV. But then again, to let some of these brothers tell you, allegedly, Magic Johnson had HIV.